So let's work on a card screen now to which we can navigate. For this, in the screens folder, let's add a new card underscore screen.dart file, or whatever you want to name it. And in there, I'll add a stateless widget, card screen, and simply import, as always, material.dart from the Flutter package. Now, as always, it's totally up to you how you build that screen, what you want to show there, and so on. On my card summary screen here, in the end, I want to show a little box that shows us the total amount and allows us to order all the items in the card. And below that, I want to have a list of card items where we can also swipe the icons to dismiss and delete them. So since this will make up the entire screen, let's add scaffold here as a root widget in this stateless widget here, in our own widget. And of course, let's add an app bar here where I say your card. Whoops, should be on the title though. So here on the title of this app bar, I'll add a text widget where I say your card, anything like that. And of course, then we'll have a body in here which shows the content of our card. Now, as I said, I want to have a box with a summary of the card, and then below that, all card items. So since there are two items, two elements above each other, we'll need a column for sure, like this. And column takes the children, as you learned, and the first child here will be a card, and I'll take the built-in card widget to have some nice built-in styling out of the box. Add a little bit of margin around it with the margin argument on card. And I'll use edge insets all 15, maybe. You can, of course, play around with that value to find the value that best suits your needs. And the child here of my card will now be a row, because I'll have a couple of pieces of information next to each other. Actually, the direct child will be a padding, because I want to have some padding in the card with edge insets all 8, maybe. And then here, I'll have a child, which now is my row of elements. So a row of items inside of my card, surrounded by some padding. And now in that row, I essentially want to have a text widget where I say total, because I'm showing the total here. And I'll add a little bit of style there and give this a text style object, therefore, where I want to set the font size to 20. And of course, that should be inside of the text widget, like this. So give this a font size of 20 maybe. And next to the text, I want to have a sized box with a width of 10 to add some spacing. Because now next to that, I'll add a widget which we haven't used before, the chip widget, which is also a little bit like our badge, our label, an element with rounded corners, which you can use to display information. The chip takes a label, and that is a widget, or that requires a widget, and I'll use a text widget here where I want to show my sum, my total sum of the items I have in the card. For that, of course, we need to calculate the card total. And as before, it's always a good idea to not do something like this in your widgets, but move such logic into your models, into your classes. So here I'll move it into the card class with a new getter. There I'll return double with a getter, double get total amount, or whatever you want to name it. And here I want to return the total of all my card items. Now for that, to return my total here, I'll create a new helper variable, total, which is 0.0 initially. And then here I want to go through all the elements in my card. So on my items, underscore items, with for each I can execute a function on every entry in that map. And it will receive that entry as an argument. To be precise, it will receive the key and then the value for that entry. So my card item, so to say. And then, in that function, I can do something. So it runs this function for every item in my map, and this is a map of card items in the end. So here, I can then take my existing total, which I initialize with 0, and simply add something to it with this plus equal shortcut, which adds something to the value and then stores the new value back in that variable. So I add something to that value, and that something is card item dot price times card item dot quantity. So I go through all my card items and then I calculate the total by multiplying all the quantities with the prices. And then that total is what I return here. So that's my total amount. And in the card screen, I need that total amount. Therefore, in the card screen, I need to listen to changes in my cart. And I'll do this here with provider off because I'm fine with rebuilding everything when something in the cart changes. Theoretically, the app bar, of course, doesn't need to rebuild if something in the cart changes. It doesn't really hurt, though. You could, of course, just wrap the parts that really are affected. But to save some lines of code, and because it doesn't have a huge impact here, I'll just set up a general listener here directly at the beginning of build. And there I reach out to my cart with provider, for which you need to import the provider package. And you will also need to import your cart model, your cart class. So with provider of, for the type cart, of context. This gives me access to the cart. With that access, I also set up my listener. I'm fine with listening to changes here. I want to rebuild when something changes. So here I can then access cart total amount and convert this to a string. But actually that won't be required here because what I actually pass here to the text widget is a string with some string interpolation where I access between my curly braces cart total amount. ToString is then called automatically, and in front of that I want to show the $sign. So to use it as a $sign, we need to escape with a backslash, and then here this shows the $sign, and this here sets up string interpolation where it outputs the total amount. Now that chip in which I'm outputting this can also be configured to get some background color. And there I want to use my primary theme color. So with theme of context, primary color, I do set up this background color. And with that, we already have something that would be interesting to view. So to reach that card screen, we need to be able to go there. And I want to route there with a named route. So I'll add a static const route name here at the top of the card screen class, at the top of our widget here, and give this a name of /cart. That name is, of course, totally up to you, as you learned in the navigation module. And in main Dart, we can now register this. Here in the routes table, we add our cart screen, and for that, you need to add an import here from /screens, cart screen Dart. Then down there, you can refer to cart screen route name as your key. And then in that builder method, which Flutter calls for you, you create a new card screen object. So now with the card screen registered, we can go there from inside our products overview when we tap this card button. So here in this method here, I want to use navigator of context and then use push named to go to the card screen. So there I refer to card screen, and for that you need to import that screen here. So add an import pointing at /card screen.dart. And with that import added here, down there where I create the route, I refer to card screen.route name and push that named route. Let's give this a try. Let's click on the cart, and I'm taken to the cart. You see we have nothing in the cart and hence a total value of 0. If I now add this item by clicking on the cart button twice, I have 119.8 here, which makes sense if we have a look at our products, because what I chose is the trousers, and the trousers have a price of $59.99. I clicked on the cart icon twice, so I added 2 of them, and hence the total here makes sense. It's 2 trousers. So that works. Now, what would be nice here is a changed color of the text. So in the card screen here, in our chip, on the text here, I can add a style, a text style here, and give this a different color. And there I want to reach out to the theme and take my primary text theme, and there my title color. So only the color which would normally be assigned to title text elements that have the primary text theme, and that by default then uses white as a contrast color to the dark purple background. Would also be nice to have some space between, and that's very easy to do, as you learned, of course. On the row here, which holds the different items where I want to have space between, we can set a main axis alignment of main axis alignment dot space between. And what this ensures is that it, well, adds space between total and that chip here. That chip alone is pretty boring, however. Next to the chip, I also want to have a button that allows us to place the order. So next to the chip, I'll add a flat button where the child is a text widget, where I say order now, something like that, all caps maybe. And on pressed, I'll not do anything for the moment because we have no functionality to place orders yet. I'll give it a text color though, which I get from my theme, and there I simply want to use the primary color. So this adds a flat button, which we now also see here, the order now button. Now, thanks to space between, by the way, we don't really need that sized box with the width here though, because we can simply distribute the space like that. And if you want to make sure that both the chip and the order now button are pushed all the way to the right, but this total is pushed all the way to the left, there's a special widget you can add between the text and the chip. That's the spacer widget, which is built into Flutter. And if you add that, that basically takes up all the available space and reserves it for itself, and therefore we get this look, well, we have here. So now we have that summary card. Let's next display the card items below that though.